All right, let's get right into it. You know how one comment can just shake up the entire global economy? Well, we just got a huge one involving the US and China. We're going to unpack former President Donald Trump's absolutely massive threat of a 200% tariff.
And here it is. This is the exact quote that kicked this whole thing off. The warning shot is super direct, it's specific, and it's aimed at a product that is way, way more important than most people realize, these rare earth magnets. This is the opening chess move in a very, very high-stakes game.
And can we just stop and look at that number for a second? 200%. I mean, in the world of trade, tariffs are usually in the single digits, maybe low double digits. A 200% tariff? That's not a tax. That is a virtual blockade. It's designed to make it financially impossible to import something. It's an economic sledgehammer, plain and simple.
So, let's dig in. What's really going on behind this warning? This threat really didn't just appear out of thin air. It's a direct shot back at rising fears that China might decide to cut off its magnet exports. So the message is basically a preemptive strike. It's saying, hey, if you even think about cutting off our supply, we will completely slam the door on your market. But why? Why all this drama over some magnets? Well, because these are not the kind you stick on your fridge. The stakes here are unbelievably high. You see, these little things are basically the unsung heroes of all modern tech. They're absolutely essential for everything from our most advanced defense systems like precision-guided missiles to the smartphone that's probably in your pocket right now, and even the giant wind turbines that are powering our green energy future. So here's the bottom line. If you control the supply of these magnets, you have leverage over huge, critical parts of the US economy and its national security. And to really get the kind of leverage we're talking about, you just have to look at this chart. China produces around 90% of the world's rare earth elements. That's not just a big slice of the pie, that's practically the whole pie. It's a near monopoly. And when one single country has that much control over something so critical, any threat to the supply chain gets taken very, very seriously. They are holding some powerful cards.
Okay, but this brings up a really fundamental question about economics. When a massive tariff like this gets put in place, who's actually footing the bill? The answer? Well, it might not be who you think.
Let's think about it. If the US government slaps a 200% tax on a product coming in from China, who really ends up writing that check?
And here it is. While the tariff is aimed at the Chinese exporter, the hard reality of economics is that tariffs are just taxes paid by companies on this side of the ocean, the US importers. And those companies then face a tough choice. Either they eat that massive new cost, which is pretty much impossible, or they pass it along to American consumers through higher prices. So ultimately, the cost lands right here at home.
You have to understand, though, this threat isn't just about economic policy. It's a calculated, strategic move in a much bigger power play. This whole thing is about way more than just magnets.
The threat really does three main things. First, it just blows the stakes of any trade dispute wide open. Second, it injects a huge dose of uncertainty for American businesses that depend on these parts. And third, and this might be the most important piece, it's a very aggressive negotiation tactic. It's a way of putting immense pressure on Beijing.
And you can hear that negotiation style loud and clear in the actual words being used. When you hear phrases like incredible cards and the power to destroy, it frames this as something much bigger than a trade issue. This is a test of strength between two global giants. This is hardball negotiation on the world stage.
But an executive action this big doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Back in Washington, there's actually a growing pushback from inside Congress to try and claw back some of its own authority on trade. And that pushback has a name, the Trade Review Act of 2025. This is a bill that's been proposed specifically to put a check on a president's power to just impose tariffs whenever they want. The whole idea is to pull Congress back into the loop on any long-term trade decisions.
So how would it work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. A president could still act fast and put a tariff in place on day one. But after 60 days, that tariff just automatically dies unless Congress steps in and votes to keep it going. It basically puts a timer on any unilateral action from the White House. So let's wrap this all up. Here's the situation in a nutshell. You have the context, China's stranglehold on a critical resource. You have Trump's stance, this massive tariff threat used as leverage. Then you have the economic reality. Americans would probably be the ones paying the price. And finally, you have the policy check.
This push from Congress to get back in the game. That is the entire conflict.
And all of this really leaves us with one big, fundamental question to chew on. In this high-stakes game of global trade, what really has more power in the end? The bold public threats of political leaders, or the quiet, unyielding laws of economics? It's a tension that is going to define so much of what happens next on the world stage.